Alright, so it's been a long ass time since I've done one of these, and I honestly just felt like making one because they're kind of fun to make. Now obviously it's been a couple of days since the brand new box has been released, and we've seen a few tournaments, got a little bit of results, so I thought it'd be a pretty decent time to come up with a tier list, showing you guys my opinion on what I think the current meta is going to look like. Now obviously, since the box only did just come out, this should be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. It's just my personal opinion based on my experiences and what I've seen, some of the tournament toppings and all that kind of stuff. It's not set in stone, and some of this stuff might come out and completely surprise me and just make this tier list look like an absolute joke. But until then, we're going to be giving my prediction on what I think is currently the best, and yeah, let's get into it. So before we jump into it, just a reminder, if you are enjoying this kind of content or see more Duel Links content or even more Master Duel content from me, I'll be doing a Master Duel stream later today, by the way, for those interested in the latest Master Duel stuff. But if you are interested in more Duel Links content, we'll see more videos and stuff from me. Remember to subscribe, very helpful. I'm now less than 10k away from getting to 100k, so would really like to do that at some point this year. So I'd really appreciate any subs and that kind of stuff. And let's get into this tier list. Alright, so starting off with a hard one actually. We've got your Cosmo. Not Cosmo, your Shadow. Alright, Shadow. Where do I think Shadow is? So Shadow's interesting because every time I look at the cards, every time I read the cards, not even just Winder, just reading the cards in general, it just seems like such a good deck. But then I look at like tournament results, and it's had so few since it's been released. It's had a couple of toppings, which should be expected, but it's just like, that's it? Just 3 measly tops? It just does not look like a good deck. I feel like it's definitely good enough. You'll definitely see it occasionally top placing in tournaments and stuff, and maybe as people get better at the deck, it'll place higher. But I think for now, it's actually just a rogue tier deck. I don't think it's tier 3. It reads like a tier 3 deck. Like, I want it to be tier 3, but I just don't think it quite makes the cut. Yeah, alright. Next up, we have your Constella. Now, this is the complete opposite. Holy shit, has this thing come out of the gate flying. This thing has had so many toppings, and just playing it on ladder in general, I had that 10-game win streak or whatever I did with this thing. This shit is actually insane. This would actually be a tier 0 deck if you could only go first. Like, if you guarantee your coin flip to always be going first, this is 100% a tier 0 deck. But sadly, you can't do that. So, well, probably not sadly, but you can't do that. So it's looking more like a tier 1-ish deck, because it does still have a really big downside of going second. You're not that good at playing through disruption, but going first, holy shit, this shit is ridiculous. I think this is probably tier 1. It seems like a tier 1 deck to me. Cosmo. Oh, Cosmo. So Cosmo's had pretty similar results to Shadow. I think there's been a couple of people that have been topping here and there. It's had a couple of toppings, or at least like some of the older ones actually. Yeah, so I'm not super keen on this deck. I've come across it a few times on ladder, and a lot of the time people just, now that there's so many cards in the game that are untargetable, a lot of people are just taking in Utopia. The Utopia package allows you to swing into it, just ignore it, just send all that shit to the graveyard. And just makes this deck list feel like, that on top of like all the other non-target stuff people are running, it feels like it's sort of just roguish. It's just not, you'll see it occasionally top in a tournament, but I don't see it doing much more. Like, KC Cup wise, I'm sure this deck would do fine. Same with these decks. All these decks will probably do okay in a KC Cup sort of style format. But natural tournament play, it's not looking too great. I don't think it's that good. It can certainly cheese out a lot of wins, because some decks they just cannot deal with the non-target stuff, and this will just absolutely mop the floor with them. On ladder play, you're going to shit on everyone with this deck. But in tournaments, when people are actually more focused and playing certain tech cards and are prepared for certain matchups, even in KC Cup, it just does not seem like, if people are prepared for it, it won't do as well as it probably could have. Alright, Live Twin. Yeah, Live Twin are just tier 2. There's not much has changed about this archetype, other than it might have gotten slightly better, because now there's a lot of reasons to play things like DD Crow, and if you want to play a deck that can play DD Crow, Live Twin is a great example of that, because it has so many tech slots. It's a 1-card combo deck, and it has draw, so getting a hold of those tech cards is a lot easier. Making this deck just easily tier 2, it just, yeah, if anything, it got slightly stronger due to the current format, so I definitely don't think it went down a rank. It could have anything, I don't think it went up a rank, because I think it's not quite tier 1 level, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good, let's just say that. Starry Night. For ladder play, this deck's fine, but tournament-wise, even with the new trap card, it hasn't really done anything. I don't think I've seen a top of it, has it? Let's have a look. Starry. Something like that. Starry Night. It's had a couple. It's like no cog decks though, holy. No one's even playing the deck. Because it's hard to determine whether or not the deck's good or not when literally no one's playing it to try it out. I feel like it's an okay deck. Maybe it's Copium though. Nah, it's got to be Rogue, right? It's okay. It's fine. If you want to play this in tournaments, it'll probably do fine, but it's not. It's definitely not a top tier deck. I'd probably put it weaker than these other two, but because I don't really have a tier for that, I don't have a category for it. I don't think it's Copium. It's not Copium level. This is like absolute despair garbage stuff. This is a reserved to, I think, only one archetype in this entire list, so it's just a Rogue tier deck. Alright, what we got next? We got your Teni. Teni, I think, is the most overhyped, overplayed garbage imaginable. It's not bad, obviously, but the fact that I think the tier list currently has it in tier 1, I think it's being played so much in tournaments, I think it's absurd. The deck doesn't actually end on much. You're ending on what is literally just a full reliant graveyard with no disruption most games. Sometimes you end on the Berserker and that's pretty good, but when you don't end on that thing, you're just relying on a graveyard and that's it. Which is so weird to me. I think if people actually just take in things like Dweller and cards just that deal with graveyard, like Crows and stuff, this will just fall off a cliff. And I think cards like that, like Sealed Tombs, Dweller, all that kind of stuff, is really going to become a lot more popular in decks that can play it, which, to be fair, most decks have like annoying skills now that stop you playing those things. But in decks that can play them, this thing will get hit quite a bit. I just don't think this thing's better than Constella. I really just don't think it's better than Live Twin either. I feel like it's actually just here. I think that it definitely gets a lot of toppings, but I also think it's just a shit ton of representation for no reason. Like, so many people play this deck, I just don't know why. It has a shit ton of toppings, but obviously these are from previous weeks. From the last few days, it still had a bunch of toppings, so... Yeah, it's definitely a good deck, I'm just not super sure on this one. Alright. Next up we have, this is the... What's the name of this? S-Force. S-Force is really surprising on KC Cups. You always do alright. Tournament-wise, I think it gets a few toppings, but is it really tier 3 level? It's so reliant on just one singular trap card. To be fair, it's a pretty goddamn powerful trap card. But if your opponent hits it with like a Cosmic or an MST or something, the deck just kind of falls apart, which is a weird thing to rely on. Just one singular trap card is your only disruption. It obviously does okay. Like, oh my god, it has a lot of toppings. God damn. Yeah, maybe this deck is just way better than I think it is. Look how many first places, actually. Yeah, actually, this deck must be better than I think it is. I'm reluctant to put it in tier 2, though. Very reluctant to put it there, but just based on just looking at this fucking page here, it's got to be doing something somewhere, so we'll put it in here. Alright, SuShip. SuShip. I wish this was top tier. I really do. The only advantages that SuShip have currently is that it can play Sealed Tombs, and it can play an Abyss Dweller and can access them really easily. Both of those are really good against a lot of the decks in this current format. A lot of these decks just rely so heavily on Graveyard that this could actually get that out really easily. But so can a deck like Salad. And I think Salad is probably a better archetype, so probably just play Salad in that case. And that would just mean this deck list, although it's really good going second, it just doesn't have a going first play outside of just the one, whatever you call that stupid negate that I've forgotten the name of the archetype it comes from. It just doesn't really do a whole lot. It's going first anyway. Going second, it's fantastic, but going first, it's just too reliant. Also, a lot of your starting hands are just like, they're all like 2-card combo sort of mesh-ups, whereas most top-tier archetypes end up just being 1-card combo, can do the whole thing. It's so close to being top-tier, man. It's actually really close. If there was some way to set up a solid turn 1 that's actually like really solid, not just one singular negate and just pass, it will probably be a bit higher, but I don't think it's going to sneak into here. It is a very quick deck, though, so KC Cup-wise, this might actually be a tier 3 thing. I suspect someone in the top 100 will be Giga Chad and play this completely free-to-play archetype and just get top 100 with it. That'd be insane. But I think for a standard tournament play, it's just a rogue deck. You might occasionally see this top. I think I saw it at least top yesterday. I don't think it made like top 16 though. Let's have a look. SuShip. Yeah, there's actually no toppings with it. But to be fair, it's also like 0 representation. No one believes in this archetype, so no one plays it in tournaments. So it's hard to determine if it's actually like, if it could top. I think it could top. I really do. Alright, Gandora. This is a weird one. I very rarely see this archetype, like, ever. Like, I just don't see it. Is it even played in, like, tournament play? Like, where is it? Who is playing this deck? Like, there's literally one page worth. It has 2 toppings, to be fair. but like no one's playing it. So I don't know, is this deck this good? It's hard to determine if it's good when I never see it ever. Like nobody's playing it. Like how can I rate this thing highly if nobody's playing it at all? It's probably not a bad deck, but if nobody's playing it, I'm literally seeing like no results anywhere. Can I really put it any higher than Rogue? Like with any sort of a... I don't know. I feel like this deck is probably about as good as anything else in here. Maybe better than SuShip. But all these other art types, I feel like it's just as good. It's probably better than Starry Night too. But it's probably about as good as everything else in here. It's not that great. Alright, so this is Machina. But when I say Machina, I'm referring to just any Earth Machine pile at all. Because obviously there's like trains, there's your pure Machina, there's whatever the hell you feel like playing with this deck. So I'm just referring to any of those sort of things that this deck list supports, okay? And for that, I actually think this deck list is really good. I think it's not enough people playing this right now that there should be. I think the deck is maybe a little bit harder than some of the other decks. It's very sort of, it has a lot of steps to your combos you're doing, so that's probably putting a lot of people off. But I feel like this deck is actually really good. The few times I've seen it on ladder, it's popped the fuck off. So I feel like this deck is really good. How good? I'm reluctant to put it as good as any of these two, but I do think it's tier 3. I think it's definitely being underplayed right now and underrepresented. It should be played a bit more than it is. Let's see if I can... Yeah, it's just not enough people playing it right now, and I really think there should be more. I actually think this art type is really good. There's a few toppings, but I feel like it's a lot better than it looks, and people should really be trying to give this a shot. It looks really good from my perspective. Not tier 2 level, though. Speaking of unrepresented, we've currently got this art type. Now, this art type, it looks... The reason I know this art type is good is because currently in tournament play, there isn't that much of it. There's not that many people playing it. But despite very few people playing it, it's getting a lot of it, like a lot of toppings. There's like three people enter like a 60-person tournament, and 2 of those 3 people will top with it, which is insane. Some people this has even been winning some tournaments. Makashi's been looking really solid. Makashi. Yes, we had a couple of toppings already, and I'm pretty sure in like most of these tournaments, there is just not that many people entering with the deck list, and it's still getting top 4s, top 2nd, top 8. Oh, a bunch of toppings already on the first day. Yeah, this deck list is insane. I'm pretty certain this thing's either tier 2, maybe even tier 1. I would like to put it in tier 1, but it's I haven't seen enough of it yet to know if it's quite as good, but it's definitely tier 2 at least. This deck is insane. It also depends on like if people start teching against it, because a lot of DD crows, which aren't that great against it, but have can potentially stop it. Things like your sealed tombs and all that kind of stuff. If a lot more tech start coming out, maybe it wouldn't make it to tier 1, but yeah, it's certainly a really good deck. I'd like to put it up here, because it seems like it should be up here, but I don't know yet. I really don't. I would love to put it in tier 1 though, but I think this is the sole tier 1 decks currently. But I do think this is actually better than Teni, I'm not gonna lie. I have my doubts about Teni. I think this is an imposter, I really do. Alright, then we have your Winged Dragon of Ra. Yeah, if we're talking tournament level play, I think Ra... I think it's Cope. I think it's Cope. Let's have a look, Ra. Oh, Winged Dragon. It's had 0 tournament toppings so far. Yeah, ladder play, go ahead, you gotta shit on everyone just because everyone on ladder sucks and all the decks suck on ladder, but in tournament play, outside of maybe KC Cup format, where this deck might shine due to the speed format nature of it, same with SuShip, it's a bit of cope. It's a little bit copey, okay? We can't, the fact this deck list loses to a single MST or Cosmic being set, just removing one of your continuous if you try to use it, it just makes it so the deck's just not playable. It just really isn't. In tournament play, that is. On ladder, go right ahead, you'll shit on everyone. Rocket. So Rocket hasn't been changed, so it's hard to say it's anything but, like, tier 2, tier 3. Where's it currently in the tier list? I think it's tier 2, right? Yeah, tier 2. I'm pretty sure I agree with that. I think Rocket is just, like... It hasn't been changed, so I don't know why it would be anything less than that. It's one of those decks which can play a few tech cards. It just... For some reason, is immune to ban lists. Konami just never want to touch this thing, despite it being a top tier deck for quite a long while now. So, Yeah, this is just a tier 2 deck. It's hard to put it anywhere else. Ah, yes, the actual Copium tier. This one almost deserves its own tier. This is actually a Despair tier, this one. Despair. I changed the color of this to just like pure black or something. You can barely even read Despair, but that's what this archetype is. It is pure Despair. This is some absolute hot tier trash garbage. Don't touch this thing. I've even forgotten, what's it, L Swarm? Just living up to the name of having the L in it. Huge L this archetype. Don't play it. It's garbage. Speaking of Copium, we have your... how have I forgot the name of this archetype? You guys know what it is anyway. This archetype, it's unfortunately, I think everyone said this, it's been repeated a billion times, but it's just true. The archetype, although it's got an insane card that's basically a custom card with how insane it is, it's a card that has changed nothing about the archetype. It went from being an archetype which literally is just a summon one monster, hope that monster sticks, to an archetype that summons one monster and hopes that one monster sticks. And if it doesn't stick, your opponent removes it. It's Magical Musket, that's it. But if it doesn't stick and your opponent removes it, that's your turn done. There's literally nothing else you can do. It hasn't changed. It's technically better, but it's not better in a sense where it's good enough for an actual tournament deck, in my opinion. Trickstar. So, I think this is currently tier 3, but every time I see it, it just gets shit on currently. People are still loving to play this in tournaments, so these are before the new box was released. After the new box was released, it still has a couple of toppings. The upside of this deck list is it allows you to search for things like your deity. It's similar to Live Twin. It allows you to search for your text really easily, so your crows and stuff versus particular matchups. But I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of people just love playing the archetype. I don't actually think it's that great. Like, if you have a choice between this and Live Twin, just play Live Twin. It's way better and does the exact same thing. It's just a shittier version of Live Twin currently. But it has got some tournament toppings to back it up, so it's hard to say it's, like, bad. But do I think it's, like, better than Cosmo or Shadow? Like, really? Is it any better than these ones? Probably not. This one's hard. I think this would be, like, a 3.5 tier. I don't think it's a... God, it's hard. It's really hard to judge. Where do I want to put this? I think to be safe, I should put it here, but I feel like I don't know, I'll put it in Rogue. Salamangreat. So Salamangreat's the deck that I said can make Abyss Dweller, which is interesting, because Abyss Dweller is very good versus a lot of the current meta. It also can play a lot of tech cards like DD Crow and stuff. So this feels like Live Twin, but with the advantage of you can make Dweller. That's what I feel like with this deck is. Unfortunately, it had the same draw power as this deck, so not quite as good. But I think it's a solid tier 3. I think Dweller will be seeing a bit more play recently, and out of all the decks in here, there aren't that many that are Dweller makers. This one's a great Dweller maker, so I think it's probably a tier 3. I think it's probably tier 3. Yeah, I think it's tier 3. Glue Bell. Glue Bell for all the glue eaters. So let's have a look at how these results been going for Glue Bell recently. What have they been doing? I don't pay too much attention to this deck because I think it's kind of lame. Let me just type it in here. Glue Bell. Well, it's still topping, but not... Oh, since the new box release, though? It's had quite a few toppings since the new box released. Where does this thing sit? God, it is such an absolute cringe deck. And Hero's Fusion to smack your opponent in the face, no brain cell needed. Where do I put it? Do I honestly think this archetype is as good as anything in here? Probably not. Like, I think it's probably better than these guys, maybe? But do I think it's better than these ones? I don't know about that. I think on ladder, if I see you, Bell, I'm a little bit more happy than if I see any of these. That's for sure. These seem way better. It's close, though. I think it's close. It's close between tier 2 and tier 3. It's pretty close where I'd put this. But I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave the Glue Eaters in tier 3 for now. Alright, then we have your... whatever, this annoying track... Altergeist. Altergeist. The actual trap deck of the game. How good is Altergeist? Altergeist seem pretty good, but... Oh... Do I actually think they're on the same level as other things in here? Or do I think they're more like these guys? I don't know. God, some of these art types are really hard to review. Can I type in here? Hello? There we go. Let's see. Tournament toppings. What we got? About a decent amount, I guess. No mortal can resist. Wow, okay. I don't think it's much better than the stuff I've already got in Rogue. I think it's probably a Rogue deck. I don't think I'd put it any higher than this. I think it matches up fairly similarly with stuff in here, I think, in terms of power level. I don't think it's much better than this. It's probably like high Rogue, but I don't think it's that much better than stuff in here. Maybe it is. I'll stick it in tier 3 for now. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this tier list. Let me know if you guys agree with it down below. Your thoughts on the list. Is there anything in here I missed, for example? Is there anything in here you'd like to change? Let me know down below. Maybe I'm on some copium myself, but this is obviously just my opinion. So if you enjoyed the tier list, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope you see you in the next video. Laters.